I'm Lydia.
I'm Ed.
We're friends with a playlist for everything. And it turns out we both have one called Survival Songs.
And it got us thinking, what are other people's survival songs?
So we thought we'd find out.
Welcome to Survival Songs,
A podcast where each episode our guest tells us about a song that gets them through the best and worst of times.
sensitive topics might be discussed.
So look after yourself.
The show contains portions of copyrighted material.
We'd love for you to support and celebrate the artists by streaming, downloading and buying their brilliant music. And go give our guests a follow on social media.
Help us grow the community of survival song listeners by joining us over on Substack and add to our public playlist on Spotify. Links are in the show notes.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm Ed, and welcome to Survival Songs. This week it is my absolute pleasure to welcome our guest, David Benjamine Blower. David describes himself as a musician, poet, podcaster and writer. He comes from the post-industrial melting pot of Birmingham, has written and toured prolifically, gathering audiences around fires to find language for joyous life and times of slow ruins. David has released more than 17 records, played festivals and lounges nationwide, and his third book, Messianic Commons, will be published in autumn 2024. When he's not making music, David's favourite things are books, whisky, friends, and his two children, Jessie and Rosa. Outside Left magazine says about David, whatever you want to call him, he remains one of the most singular and compelling music artists in Birmingham right now. We're going to speak to David in a minute, but before we do, here's part of his survival song. This is The End by The Doors.
This is the end, my only friend, the end of our elaborate plans, the end of everything that stands, the end. No.
Okay, so that was today's survival song from our guest David Benjamine Blower, who is with us now. Hello, David.
Hello, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So, tell me, how did this song arrive in your life? Like, when did you first hear it? When did you first experience it? What was the reaction to it?
It goes down to a mixtape that I had cool older sisters in the 1980s, and my sister Jo gave me and my brothers mixtapes. The slightly wider backstory is. We lost a parent. I'm one of 5 siblings, and my mum died when I was 5 years old. So we, as a kind of cohort of siblings, experienced this. And then our family changed. My dad remarried, and my sisters were fostered, sent into foster care. So this mixtape was like one of the early things that came back once our sisters weren't living with us anymore. And this mixtape just, your first mixtape, I listened to this thing over and over again. But there you go, the sound of that song just became part of the just part of the fabric, the weave of life. When I was, like a kind of 10-year-old kid, quite young, too young to be listening to sort of out of control rock and roll music. Yeah, that's the story.
And it's so it's sort of a connection back to your family. Is that one of the reasons why you sort of?
Having siblings, we experienced things together, as I guess everyone with siblings does in some way or other. So yeah, it's part of the shared story of growing up, I guess.
Where did the survival part of this come into it? Like, how does this become a survival song? Because obviously it's part of your core memories in terms of connecting you to your siblings. But how then does it become, like, as an individual, how does it become a survival song?
Yeah, good question. And it feels like more of a song of defeat than a survival song.
Yeah.
It went into me in a certain kind of way because I guess I'd experienced a lot of, I'd experienced some losses kind of in a row over a handful of years. I'd lost a parent, and then the shape of my family had changed. So I didn't think of it, consciously that way at the time. I didn't think I was, need to hold on to this song because a lot of endings have happened or something like that. The one thing that's certain in life is that, anything could happen and that anything might not be good. So I think that is the weird and slightly morbid way that this song helped. Yeah.
Yeah, but in a way that what you're doing is processing right through that song. Okay, does that make sense? It feels like, because you can look at it, I suppose it's what side of the glass you look at that through. Because you can say, well, there's kind of an over accentuation on the morbid in the end, but fundamentally what you're dealing with is you're coming to terms with mortality, and you're coming to terms with the fact that things do end. And I think one of the things we don't necessarily do as humans very well is deal with endings. We look at the way we react when famous people die, even though they're 95, and we'll still lose our minds like it was a tragedy. It's like, they lived till they were 95. That's some good going. It's like we don't really accept endings. And it feels like through this song and through everything that's shaped, is that fair to say that it's sort of like that's how you shape, that's a way of understanding that the ending is inevitable, and that's healthy?
Yeah, I think there is something healthy in finding language and symbols and words and aesthetics for endings and for loss as part of living. I'm a musician and a writer now, and I'm sort of I've become sort of in my small world typecast as like a very morbid a maker of very morbid work, to the point where someone asked once if they could hire me for one of my lament parties. I suppose I've carried that that purpose or ability or vision, through life, whether well or not well, that if people are interested in what I do, it's because they want a space to sort of think about endings or think about loss in a way that, you can live with.
And is that in a way a really sort of like unique way to survive, is that you survive by knowing there's an end, right? They're actually going, as hard as it gets, this does end.
I guess, well, the unhealthy side of it for me, as I begin to recover from my childhood survival mechanisms, is that everything ends in a way, but also everything carries on. And if I've survived by kind of just looking at everything at that'll end, you sort of cope with the instability of things by just accepting the ending of things. I don't know, I guess there's just a question of balance. There's also life, there's also newness, there's also beautiful surprises and unexpected things, as well as, unwanted surprises. So yeah, like inevitability is, well, it can be a vice and a drug, I think. It's a bit like a hubris of certainty.
Yeah. And how do you think that relates to this song then? And how do you think you're processing all that through this song? Big question.
Like, firstly, like the aesthetics, the opening sound, you got the guitar creating this weird sound and the cymbals are just tinkling. There isn't a rhythm yet. And it sort of sounded to me like you're going into some weird temple. And it's like a trance. And there's something about the state of trance that the song has always put me in. Oh, that enables a kind of feeling of resolution. Enables me to stay still. Or to be still in an environment that feels unsafe and unstable and unpredictable, and where your body would want to panic,
Yeah, because it's less of a song and more of a meditation, right? It's because it's a lot. It's 11 minutes 48 seconds long. That's not a short, quick bite-sized song. That is some time, particularly with one song, right? So yeah, it makes sense that it's that kind of meditation.
It's like a dream, isn't it? It's like a weird dream. I suppose Yes, I mean, maybe that's a way of seeing it. It's like a waking dream. We like, I need to dream so I can emotionally process things that are difficult to process consciously. I feel like it kind of creates a space where I'm able to do that without being asleep.
That makes loads of sense of that song, and especially in the context that you're talking about. Me and Lydia always talk about the kind of bit in a song, the bit which you kind of go, oh, that's the bit. I'm waiting for that moment, that kind of like, you know, whether it's a lyric or it's like there's a guitar movement or the drums kick in or whatever it is. Is there a moment in this song which kind of really either takes you further into the meditative state, or it, you know, or just kind of really just brings you joy or physical, there's some kind of physical reaction. One of our guests talked about how literally they felt physically moved by the song, and is there a point for you with that one?
Oh, the song is such a landscape. So much happens. There's a lot of time for things to happen, and it's such a long song. I think it's kind of an instrumental kind of breakout moment. The song's begun. There's been, you know, a couple of verses that they sound almost like verses of a normal song, and then an instrumental break happens. There's suddenly a lull, a quiet, and then there's a drum roll, and it's not like a drum fill, it's like a drum roll. There's not like a rhythmic quality to it, and then crash, and then the guitar does its kind of soaring line upwards, and it has this swell. And it's like some of the violence that the song is talking about is allowed into the space, into the trance, and swells into it so that you know, just enough so you can see it and behold it and cope with it. But then it just sort of drifts away almost as quickly.
I'm just wondering how often you listen to it, because it's been over 11 minutes. How often do you listen to this song?
I feel like it'd be unhealthy to listen to it too much. Yeah, not loads. I mean, it's not like the, I need something. Put it on briefly before the next thing. Yeah, so it's not like this regular return to sort of thing. I think it's a very... It's very occasionally and rarely that I visit that strange temple. But every now and then.
And is it still? Do you still feel the same when you return?
Yeah, that's one of the puzzling things for me. Yeah, music does kind of do things over time, but I'm surprised that, you know, how easy it is to fall into the trance again every time. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your brilliant survival song with us. Where can people find out about your work and what you do?
I am a musician, so if you look for David Benjamine Blower, wherever you listen to music, Bandcamp is great for me. All the other places work, you can find me those places. And then I'm a writer. I'm writing on Substack mostly these days, so you can find me there.
Well, thank you for sharing your time, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
We really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to support the podcast further, you can choose to upgrade your subscription on Substack. But most of all, we'd just love it if you told your friends about what we're up to. Thanks for listening.